Hello, Awakened Creators. Welcome to this very special live interview today with Michael Suarez. I am so excited to bring Michael on. This interview has been a long time coming. And Michael is somebody that I'm very, very excited for you all to get to know and to sit in the presence and wisdom of. But before we get started, before we get into the actual interview, I just want to welcome you to today's live and also kind of just bring the energy back to this idea of the power of dreams. So on Monday, I brought in one of my paintings, this one here behind me, and talked about that experience of being awoken from sleep by this dreamy vision and feeling inspired to take it to the next level, bring it to life through painting, and what that was like. And then also I mentioned how I had started to practice using my dreams to solve creative problems, or even just issues going on in my life before bed. Hi, Gabrielle. Hi, Miss Crystal. Hi, Kindness. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Marty. Welcome. And Kaz from Video Game Psychic. Hello, beautiful. Michael's there waiting to get pulled in. Welcome all to this wonderful conversation. So I had started this practice of journaling before bed. My intention is that X issue will be resolved in my dreams, and then when I would wake up, I would remember my dream, and then I would write it down, and I would use some of the skills and tools that Michael taught me on how to interpret my dreams. So this isn't something new. This isn't something I invented or even Michael invented. I remember even reading an article that some of the greatest inventors and creative minds of our time used dreams deliberately in order to solve problems. I forget who it was, but I remember there was this historical figure they said would like sleep with a giant metal ball in his hand, and below his hand, next to his side, would be a pie pan, a metal pie pan. So the idea was that he would doze off with this question in his mind, how to solve this problem or this invention. It might even have been Nikola Tesla, I forget. And by the time he would doze off, right, and then your hand would loosen, the ball would fall, hit the pan, bam, and wake him with the idea. So you don't even need to have a full sleep cycle in order to fall into a dream state. I just thought that it was so cool to realize that people have been capitalizing on dreams, have been using dreams for their advantage. And I think that it is such an untapped resource that you, if you're ever feeling stuck, whether it's a personal life issue or creative issue, to use your dreams. And Michael is going to help teach you how to do that today. Yeah, we got some guesses. Einstein, Nikola, inventors, creators, artists. Yes, it was somebody. But I just thought that was so cool. In order to do that, in order to make use of that creative dreamscape, we need to know how to interpret our dreams. So I am going to invite Michael to join me, and he has interpreted many a dream for me, and they have been and still are some of the most important guideposts of my life. The dreams that I have had interpreted by Michael have been dreams that I have turned back to time and again for their wisdom and just their wisdom and guidance in this stage of my life that I've been going on for the past year or so, venturing out on my own, dealing with my mom's death, all of that tumultuous life transformation, and having these crazy dreams come up talking about them with Michael and receiving such deep levels of comfort and security and guidance. So if you have a dream that you've been in the back of your mind, you're like, I know this means so much more. By the end of today, you're all going to be clamoring to work with Michael because he's that amazing. So I am going to bring him on. I can do this correctly. Okay, Michael, maybe you can request to join me, because out of my entire list of people to invite, yours is grayed out for some reason. So it's not letting me do that. Yay, technology. So if you can hear me and you can try to like request to join, then I will accept your request. Sorry about that, guys. Just bear with me. I'll just try again. Oh, and you know what? I may have to disconnect my mic because I will not be able to hear you. My microphone. Okay. Oh, I see your computer.
Ah, okay. So let's. All right. So maybe.
I see.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Woo! All right. Sorry, getting this together. You know, I guess pardon. The reason I think the reason I was grayed out is because, and I'm going to fix this a little bit as we talk, is because, first of all, good day, everybody. Even before we get it together, I thank God for this opportunity. I thank God for the energy. I thank God for my sister. I thank God for dreams. I thank God that, like Peter said, silver and gold have I not, but what I have, I give to thee. I thank you. I present my heart to you today, and I thank that we're changing the world. So I was a little concerned about whether the connection would be better off my computer or off of my phone. So I tried to be sneaky with Instagram and be like, all right, I'm going to join on my computer. And it looks like they grayed me out. So
Okay.
How's my volume? Everything clear? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you great.
All right. I'm actually going to move my computer off to the side then so it doesn't get in the way. But yeah, good day.
It is a beautiful day, and I think that, well, first and foremost, just thank you for coming on, and thank you for sharing your beautiful gifts with this community and being a part of this community. I know that you had intended to share some examples with us today, and I think you'll just naturally get an opportunity to do that. But I just want you to share with the group who you are, what you're all about, why are you so fascinated by dreams, and why do you feel like you're different from other dream interpreters? Because I feel like you are.
So my name is Michael Suarez. I run this business called Creative Learning, but I'm actually thinking it's soon going to be Dream Detective, because this is really how people are starting to know me. My passions are certainly for dream interpretation, which, as we will learn today, strongly overlaps with symbology. And that's going to be a big part of, what a creator can partake of, because symbology and symbolism are subconscious. In terms terms of how I got started dreaming, yeah, in terms of how I got started interpreting, I like to tell people it's amazing what a man will do for a woman. Because I started interpreting to impress my girlfriend in college. Like we would wake up and then she would like say the dreams and I was like, I wanted to be smart, so I would like work on it. And then I started to realize like, wait a minute, like she would be like, that kind of makes sense. But that's still, to be honest, this one of the things I can tell you about dream interpretation is it has been a journey for me. Like it has been a journey where doing the interpretation has taught me what I call the art and science of interpretation, taught me how deep I can take it, taught me that these are like cases which I'm solving, and I'm actually kind of addicted to solving it. That's one of the things that drives me. It's like when someone gives me a dream, I just did a super long dream yesterday, and it was so good, like a person gave me a paragraph and it was like 10 pages of response, right? Because I believe in going line by line. I believe that every detail counts, right? But okay, we're getting into technique here. I also want to say something that I think is fascinating. When I was a boy, my mother, God bless her, who you met, Amanda, gave me this book, right? Which is Joseph and the Coat of Many Colors, right? And this is a children's book which talks about Joseph, who was known for his ability to interpret dreams. And, if we want to get deep a second, whose power of dream interpretation ended up saving the world. This is a biblical story. That's what the story is actually about. So I used to read this. You know how like when kids have this toy that they're obsessed with? And they just kind of play with it, or a video, and their parents are like, put that thing off already, This was my book. And I didn't realize it until I was on my journey. Like, I almost was like, what's wrong with you, Michael? When you were a child, you read a book that convinced you that dreams can be interpreted, and then that interpretation can change the world. And I'm like, and now I'm doing it. Is this real? Is this real? So yeah, that's certainly
life is
part
but
of
a
the struggle.
dream, right? That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and I was thinking that before we came on, how sometimes I find myself trying to use the dream interpretation tools in the symbology of lived experiences that I'm having, and seeing my life almost playing out as a dream. And I think maybe that's even another layer to this whole wisdom teaching that might come out later on. People will look at their lives as these big, long, epic dreams that they're a part of.
I would actually say, and I've tossed that out sometimes on my social media, and sometimes I've said it very clearly in those little bits, like, no, I think this is a dream. I truly think this is a dream. And then the levels of like depth that blow our mind is that we're in a dream having dreams, right? And it actually, like all dreams and symbolism, it's always teaching us. So I like to say, like, somebody who said that sleeping is a dress rehearsal for death. And what dreams tell you is you don't stop. Right? Because while we're asleep, like, let us get that out as the big context, the big thing that can't be avoided. That's part of the grand mystery of what we're talking about. These things are happening to us. Well, I like to say it as the you that you think you are is asleep, right? You are unconscious and all these other things are going on. But to return to that thought, I think that is how we should be thinking of this. This is a dream, and I would say for sure that death is not something to be scared of. It is literally when we wake up.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're already blowing people's minds, and we're only a few minutes into our chat here. So because we are moving, while we're sitting in this conversation in the context of creativity, what do you feel like creators and artists specifically can gain by learning how to interpret their dreams?
So I want to say I'm really glad we're doing this, because I realized from this conversation, as much as I've been an artist my whole life, right? Like drawing, writing stories, I realized that I haven't been meditating and reflecting as much on this part of it, because, to be honest, I'm like a detective in real life. People give me the cases, they're like, Michael, I have no idea what this means. Can you please, right? People hire me to do that, and then I go through, and it's a case, and I'm going into there. To be honest, the closest thing I could explain to is like therapy, right? It's like therapy. So I hadn't been always thinking about it. And then once we started doing this, the whole week I spent thinking and writing about it. And I came up with a few answers, which I hope will be a blessing to everybody. So one of them you already alluded to, and that is the idea of dreams as content. This is associated historically with the Surrealist movement, right? Where they had these artists like us, right, Glory, who got together, talked about their dreams, and then did all sorts of stuff. Wrote stories, did musicals, did paintings, did sculptures, right? All of this stuff came out from dreams. Now, we'll go into, in a few minutes why this is so good, but I'll tell you one of the secrets. Your dream mind, I ain't kidding, is way smarter than you. Way smarter than me. We cannot hang with the dream mind. That's why when we wake up, we're like, what did that mean? I'll tell you why you don't understand it for a second. It's because it's a genius who's talking to you, and he's using the language of imagination so sophisticatedly that you're like, what? A conscious mind, that is, right? But like any student, and that's what our conscious mind is, we can press in, slow it down, pay attention to the teacher, and then all of a sudden it'll unfold, right? And then all of a sudden it'll unfold. So again, one thing for sure is your dreams are outrageously a source of content. Sometimes you'll get a whole story or a whole novel or a whole musical composition. Sometimes you'll get bits and fragments, and they'll inspire you. I myself have, for sure, I've written at least two short stories that were based on dream interpretation. Interestingly, one of them was based on, I didn't think about this till just now, one of them was based on one of my dreams, which was the first short story I ever wrote. And then the second one, which we'll talk about so we can see how this is actually done, because there's a logical element to it. The other one was another person, right? Like I interpreted their dream, and then the symbolism was so amazing to me that years later I ended up writing a short story about it. And I think the short story is amazing because it's subtle, because it's speaking in symbols, right? One other thing I want to add, and I'm getting a whole bunch of stuff out, and I'm going to keep online with this question though, is another reason we don't understand is because here our language, which biblically it says it was confounded by for those of you who know the Tower of Babel, and it says like God confounded our language. What that means is we were made to talk with words here. When we go home, when people die, everybody says they don't talk. It's imagination. So this is the language that we're talking about, right? And that's why when you try to understand dreams in just some plain way, like if they're going to speak to you with this language, it's not going to happen. It is understanding it through the language of imagination, which again has so much to do with creativity. It's deeply tied in. So, okay, so there's that aspect, and I wrote some of them down, and I think we talked about, but I'll elaborate it. When you are doing specifically, we were talking about dreams, dream interpretation, what you are coming into contact with is a transcendent genius. And that genius, like it has done to me, teaches you, right? You'll see this when we go into the specific examples, and you know from your own, right? That it begins to unfold you. Simply by presenting and then making you ask questions. What does a dragonfly mean, right? What does amaze mean? And then finding it in emotions, right? Well, what is amaze? Oh, confusion about direction, right? What is having to go to the bathroom really bad? Oh, it's urgency. This is the type of language we are talking about. And what I found was whether it was a kid, whether it was someone who was a genius, an artist, a plumber, it didn't matter. Their dreams were ingenious, like were just like mind-blowing. Again, I've become an expert in symbology, or certainly moving in that direction. And it's like the stuff I used to study in English literature classes that people wrote, years ago in famous novels are what people are dreaming, right? So you're tapping into that. You're tapping into your inner language. Now, and we talked about symbology. One other aspect that I definitely wanted to mention, which occurred to me, was, and this one's a little different, I think you'll like this one, is that I have clients, a few of them, who have dreams about getting married and dreams about getting divorced. Those divorce dreams are some of the most powerful examples of a person, when we do them, experiencing catharsis. I'm telling you, people are crying, okay? So there's this catharsis that goes on, and that frees up the artist. It frees up the creator. It allows you to express yourself because it sort of looses these bands. Like people are like, tell me, they say, explain this to me. Like you, and again, like the person who I had yesterday, where we were going into a love and marriage dream. Like they were like, wow, like this is truly having an effect on me. Why? Another wonderful secret and a power that is explaining itself to me these days, explaining itself to all of us. Awareness itself is a form of power. Understand. If you don't know what to do with your dream, the very fact, what I've experienced is, I've had people who dreamed about like wanting to be in nature, right, in wonderful ways. So, for example, they dreamed that they saw a tree, and the tree had a face, and the tree looked at them, right? After we did the dream, a year later, this person who lived in the city, and that was the whole thing, they wanted to get out, they suddenly had a context where their job changed, and all of a sudden they moved to the city. They didn't try, but I just started to see that when you insert awareness, it's almost like if you started to get mad about something. Like something gets you mad, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm in this dream, right? The awareness, the catching yourself produces a form of power. Likewise, when people get this awareness of what their dream means, it seems to loosen the power those emotions have over them. Because that is, I didn't say this, but I'll say this one thing and then breathe. If we want to understand generally what's happening with dreams, we can say that I think of two types. The main one is you have emotions being expressed like an excess, and that causes the dream. So and here the people who come to this will understand these terms. I like to stress it when we're talking with normal people, like who aren't in this type of community, that what we mean by emotions is energy in motion inside your body. So stress, excitement. Ooh, I'm worried about death. Like a friend of mine just died, so I'm worried about death. Oh, a job, so I'm worried about that. Those concerns, again, often stress, sometimes excitement, end up being converted while you sleep into this glorious stage of the unconscious as symbols. That it's the symbols and their relationship to one another. So that I'll breathe. Whew, I felt like that was a lot.
Yeah. It's so interesting, though. I think everyone's really enjoying this. We've got a couple of comments coming through. Michael, kindness revitalized, just saying you're a pleasure to listen to and learn from. Thank you for sharing your gifts. Your passion and exuberance really shine through. Gabrielle, I'm going to come right back to you. Marty Powell says, this reminds me of how tarot readers do when they connect their subconscious with the person they are reading and using symbolism. Absolutely. And I definitely recommend those of you who do play with tarot and are learning tarot, keep learning, because there's so much deep meaning. And like Michael said with the dreams, everything counts on those cards. Nothing is just there just to be there. It's something that I've learned from studying the tarot. So yeah, okay, so creators can gain a level of understanding about the symbology. They can have these emotionally cathartic experiences through their dreams, and like healing themselves almost through their dreams, and being taught how to create imaginative scapes.
Yes.
By the most genius imaginative scape maker of all, which is definitely going to up-level you as a writer, as a visual artist, like tapping into this. And I saw Dream State Visions join us, who does this work all the time, painting dreams. Blown for you, welcome. I want to go back to Gabrielle's question because I think it leads into my next one. She asked, when you were talking, you mentioned a dragonfly. I think you, in reference to a dream of mine that I shared with you. What does a dragonfly mean? And I know that that could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So what are some key points we all need to consider when we're trying to interpret a dream? Because I would argue that what a dragonfly means to Gabrielle would not necessarily equal what a dragonfly means to me. Do you feel like that's true, or is there a general, meaning that we should all go to with regards to that? So what are some key points? How do we do this?
That's a great question, and again, I'm glad we're having this chance to think about it and talk about it. So a good way to understand it is it's the same as words, right? So much of words is based on like shades, shadows, angles of meaning, and then the context, right? It's how you think of the general word and then the context. Now, it always has a general meaning, just like a word, right? Like if a dragonfly shows up in your house, you know what it is. That's how you know it has a particular meaning, okay? So I was doing an example very clearly. The holding was suddenly holding, they were holding their puppy first, and a baby, right? So now a person was holding their puppy, and then they were holding a baby. It suddenly became a baby, right? So a baby is a classic example. Now how do we interpret, to explain to people? And I think I don't have to tell you what it means. I just have to tell you what to associate those things with. So for example, baby, the first association is life. The second association would probably be love. There might be, people might associate, right? Those are all super, there's one way. However, in this dream, she was holding the baby of.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Brother, no, it's okay. I'm getting cut. I'm hearing you getting cut off a lot.
Okay.
I'm wondering if I'm the only one or if it's your connection. Anybody in the chat, were you able to hear Michael clearly this last little segment?
One,
a
two,
lot
three.
of that was blank for me.
I wonder if I should. I'm hearing myself now.
Oh, you're getting an echo.
Yeah. Maybe I should just hop back in.
Okay, yeah, we're getting some folks saying it's cutting out a bit. Dream stays. They don't want us to hear us discussing these truths. Yeah, okay. If you think that would help,
Okay. I'm gonna try really quick.
We can try to. Okay. Thank you all for that feedback. Sorry about that. We'll get Michael back in 2 minutes. I hope you are enjoying this conversation as much as I am. I think it's so fascinating, and Michael is such a beautiful and exuberant. That was the perfect word, kindness. Exuberant person to talk to about this. He gets me excited about dreams, and then I want to pay him all the money in the world to interpret every dream I have because he's just that good. So, all right, let's see. I'm going to bring him back here. And back, if the connection's better, if you can all give me a little thumbs up. Hi, Michael.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
You're sounding good and always looking good.
Okay.
So I think we'll let's kind of rewind the tape back to the beginning of the question because I did not get to hear that first part.
Okay.
I'm still here myself, but I'm gonna try to go anyway.
Do you have headphones? Maybe that would
Mm-hmm.
help, or
Yeah.
headphones with a mic. Is that any better?
I hear you
very well.
Are you still echoing? Because you're not echoing for me. I hear you clearly.
Yeah.
Dream State says she's on echo.
If they're not getting an echo,
then
it's okay.
Okay, are you all getting an echo? Because now Kukute says there's an echo as well. But I know the chat is like delayed, so it's hard to tell if it's like currently happening or was happening a minute ago. Dream State says still echo. Okay. No, it's no problem. Michael, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, we're getting reports of an echo still being pretty strong.
I'm gonna try to come out of the app for a second because it wasn't giving me this issue earlier. We'll just come right back.
Okay. That sounds good, Michael. We'll see you in just a moment. Yeah, good idea, Dancing Warrior Goddess. I'm going to put headphones on myself. Just in case I'm the one causing the echo. Okay. Hopefully that helps a little bit as well. Yeah, thank you so much. We got a couple of new folks in the conversation with us now. Welcome, Wings of Jewels. Welcome, Dancing Warrior Goddess. Right as we get into the juice, yeah, please stick around. We're talking with Michael Suarez from Creative Learning New York. I'm going to bring him back right here. We're going to jump right back into the juicy stuff of how to actually do this dream interpretation thing. So...
Right?
Okay, is that better?
Much
I have
better.
headphones on as well in case it was feedback from my own.
Okay. All right. Well, that little challenge just got me more hyped. You know, I've been listening to this song. I'll tell you all really quickly, and like I'm not joking. You know, like I really have come to this understanding with it. Like this song talks about nothing is impossible. And because of the type of beings we are, that's true. You see, as the creatives and spiritual types, I think for a long time, and it was part of the process, we were pursuing like, how do we get there? How do we get there? How do we become that? What I have realized, and I think we're all realizing, is it's a shift of identity, right? It's sort of like understanding who you are. By the way, and bringing it back to our conversation, then we'll go back to that question. One of the things you asked me, what do I love about dream interpretation? I love everything. But one of the things I love about it is what it says about our identity. I testify before heaven and earth that every single human being, every kid who thinks he's dumb, right? Every person that, oh, I'm not good enough. There's a genius inside of you. I promise. I've done hundreds now. And it doesn't matter like this. That's what I was getting to before. A person could be a plumber. They could be an artist. They could be a child. They could be an adult, an old man, a woman from different cultures. Your dreams are genius. And how could that not testify of who we truly are? That's a glorious thing. Okay.
Amen.
So, folks, we were getting into this conversation of how we deal with the language, right? And whether the language is like purely subjective, is it objective? And I said that it is like language that we use, verbal language, right? Sometimes we have to clarify it a little bit, but it's often created by the person's sense of the general idea and then by the context. So the example I was using is yesterday I had a client and we were going through her dream. And one part, she's holding a puppy. And the puppy turns into a baby. Now, here we can we'll show how you interpret. Because I like to say, I don't tell people the meaning. I just show it, right? That's how you know I ain't like tricking you. And I go, well, what would you say that means, right? And then they go, oh yeah, because it's already a language that we know, but but our fluency is not sort of activated, right? So when I say a baby, like people will be like, oh, well, a baby is what's the first thing? Life, right? And then maybe a baby is love, and a baby is maybe reflects God, and a baby is something that has to be taken care of. You see that? That's a good example right there. Like I said, it's a general language, but it is absolutely a language. One of the first dreams I ever talked about, that's one of my favorite, that really taught me how this works, and I mentioned it earlier, was I had a person who dreamt that they were in a maze, that they had to go to the bathroom really bad, that they were running through it, right, looking for a restroom. And they opened these doors, and they would open them, and there'd be a wall there. Boom, dream ends, right? So that's a classic example. And let's look for a second at some of the, like how we just particularly easily identify the language that's going on here. Because that's how you could do it. You could be like, you could put the pieces down. I'm actually teaching people right now. Here's the part, folks, where we teach you how to interpret your dreams. You take your dream, you break it down into the parts, and then you go, what would this mean? What would this mean? What would this mean? So you examine the parts, and then you examine the whole. And then you examine that whole in relationship to the dreamer. Let's do it. So the maze, what's a maze, right? When you think about it, you may need to brainstorm or talk about it with your spouse. You'd be like, oh, it's a confusion. You feel confused, right? About like which direction you're going. Right? Now I'm adding to that, and this is where we get to almost the grammar of dreams. I'm adding to this confusion of direction that you gotta pee. So what does that mean? That means you're urgently confused about direction. Okay? Now, as you're urgently confused about direction, the person said they're looking for a restroom. Every detail counts, folks. I mean, in ways that you cannot imagine. Like the person didn't use bathroom on purpose. They don't know this though. It's a restroom because what they are looking for is room to rest in their life. Okay? Then they open the door and they find a wall, which is, well, if that was you, what would you feel? This is again where I don't have to tell people. I feel disappointed, right? Yeah, I feel blocked. I feel disappointed. It would be almost cold, like, man, just a rock, just a stone there. Now, I want to trace what we just did. We went through the parts. We looked at the parts, we kind of looked at it as a whole, and now we're going to connect it to the life of the dreamer. This is something that dream interpretation taught me, right? That, oh, it's not just the symbols, it's actually where I get most like, yeah, that's some satisfying dream interpretation, is when it'll sound funny. If the person starts crying, I'm comforting in my bedside manner, but don't get it twisted. Part of me is like, yes, right? You understand why? Because I know that, boom, I hit the head. Like, we got exactly what it is when they're crying. So this person who had the maze dream was an EMT, right? Sorry, she is an EMT, but that's not the relevant part. She had just lost her job at that point. All right. And I'm almost giving it a second so people can start to let that marinate. As soon as I should tell you that, your brain should start to go, ah, ha, ha, I got it, Michael. Right? Because she was looking for a job desperately. This is a person who had had the same job for 20 years, suddenly lost it, and was like, oh my gosh, I need to get a job desperately. Right? So, but she doesn't know, she's always done one thing. So what are we seeing in her brilliant dream mind? She's confused about direction. Oh, you're confused? Okay, let's put you in a maze. Oh, you think it's urgent? Let's make you have to go to the bathroom, right? Now she's looking for a restroom because she's like, oh, I want to rest from this stress, so let's put the restrooms there. It's amazing, every detail. She was putting in applications and interviews, but they weren't leading to anything. So she got the brick door. She would open the doors and there'd be the bricks there, right? So now again, that is one example where I would talk about, like, that is the type of interpretation that ends up leading to catharsis, you know, but it also, like, if I want to create a dream, like, notice how artistic that becomes. Like, from that, I could picture making like doing a portrait of a person's, of the mind or the head, right? And then putting a brain, and then putting the maze in there, right? Like, you can begin to imagine these creative things just from really the symbology of the dream, on top of the fact that it's ingenious. So I hope that example, which again is one of my favorite and one of the first ones I talk about, it's sort of very classic. There's weirder ones and longer ones, but that one is a nice classic one people can grasp onto.
Like Quentin Tarantino in a bathtub. That one. I had to figure that one out a little bit, but
yes.
But yeah, it still has deep meaning, like random stuff.
I forgot about that. That's good.
But I love that you said that, because I was thinking too, as you were describing it, like the urgency being represented by needing to go pee, and how in writing a story, that is literally, it's teaching you how to emphasize something without being so out there with it and having to say the person was anxious. You know, you can describe that through what's going on in their body. So thank you for that.
I would actually say that what you're pointing to is another amazing benefit, which I even myself don't always talk about, but is very important to me, is the fact that dream interpretation, and I'm going to also address what Isaiah is saying, is that dream interpretation gives you this awareness of how symbology is working in the world, in many, many levels. And the one you were talking about is, as the artist, if you want to see it and you like start to do some interpretation, then go see a movie, it's not going to be the same thing. A matter of fact, if you go see an artsy movie, you'll understand them now. Like, they're like, before dream, they're like, what is that? Why is this person just like, it's because they're talking through symbols instead of talking through language, right? So doing that, I actually, you know, this would probably be a whole different conversation, but I would call it leads to being aware, and it leads to this potency for spiritual warfare, because there are all these ideas that they're trying to toss to us out there in commercials and like logos, and to turn on that awareness is to be aware, to turn on your filter, right, of what those symbols are being given to you. And what Isaiah mentioned, which is related to that, is as you start to get familiar with dream interpretation, your intuition turns on more, because what you're literally doing, like, I always wondered, like, how could you teach interpretation? And then I thought about it, and I was like, dream interpretation actually, how could you teach intuition? And then I realized interpretation really does that, because what a person is doing is, we're saying that example, like, hey, What is it when you are in a maze? What is it when you are in a car? What is it when you're on top of a mountain? And then the person thinks about that, and that's the intuitive step. As simple as it sounds, that's the intuitive step, right? Like if I say, oh, I'm, you know, the other dream that I wrote a story about, like the person was in the ocean and they're like moving around, right? And then they see an island they want to get to. So they put their face down, they swim as hard as they can, but when they pop up, they're still in the same place. Okay, that's a nice, another little short one. So we would say to the person, okay, well, what is that feeling of being like lost in the ocean with nothing to hold on to, right? Like you're feeling lost, you're feeling stranded. You know that emotion. And then again, you're making that connection. What is the island? Well, and then again, we can coach them through this. What is it like you're feeling? Well, it's where I want to go. Boom, there you go. It's your goal, right? It's your goal. So then what is the swimming? The swimming is what? Is the effort, is the work. Again, each one of those is just a little jump that honestly we should be teaching this to kids because it will work that faculty, right? By the way, that dream, which is a wonderful one, was a person. Now, once I tell you the meaning, that's the other thing. It's like, you're like, oh my God, of course. That example was a young woman who had all these things going on in her life. She had just had a baby. She had a part-time job. She was going to college, and she just felt overwhelmed. So what did her dream mind do? It put her in the middle of the ocean, right? Now she's like, okay, I have this job. I have my child. I got to get this apartment. I got to get my degree. So it put the island as a place she wanted to go. The island was her goal. Because what is an island in that case? It's your salvation. It's your security. It's where you want to place yourself. But she was putting a lot of energy into it, but not making progress, right? So when she put her face down, she swam, and then she popped up. She was in the same place. Now, here's a wonderful example of something that I could probably do now that people, it would be harder for them to do. Because I know now that every single detail counts, and I'm used to practicing. Dream interpretation has actually made me a better listener. Like, right? So I heard her say she put her face down first, you see? And that means you're not looking where you're going, right? Again, every detail counts. So I counseled from that point, like, okay, so you're putting the energy, that's there, right? But maybe you're not looking literally enough at the goal, focusing and seeing it, right? So that's what I mean where, like, yeah, you can get all this from the dream. That would be an example of coaching. And by the way, that example that I just used, years later, and I didn't even, and I'm so glad we're doing this because I didn't even think about it like that strongly. Years later, I wrote one of my favorite stories called Writing Salvation, right? And this is how it works. This is a practical one, artist. So you're going to see me take somebody else's dream and convert it into content. So I made this story about this person who felt like lost in life, right? Like they were feeling like they were just lost and stranded. And then they just did one thing. This is what I added. They started writing, right? And they started writing and writing and writing. And I wrote that as they started writing, the spirit of writing took them and they traveled around the universe, right? And they went all over and they introduced and they learned new languages and they met new people. All of this writing taught the character. And then at the very end, without knowing how, because it does start off like he feels what she said. He feels like there's an island that he's trying to get to, but he can't get to it. Then he starts writing and ends up at the island without knowing how he gets there. And then he sort of looks up and he's suddenly at the island and he sort of nods and just keeps writing, right? So I literally made that, and again, that's one of my favorite stories because it really represents to me like a part of like how we get saved through art, right? Writing salvation. You know, but that's a great example of I had a dream which wasn't even my own. She's like, pay me royalties.
All right.
That was so long ago, but yeah. So again, we have hopefully we got everything from that. We got the language, you know, how you look at it, you got how we can use it and how we can inspire these, the art that we do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I was thinking while you were talking that a lot of these dreams that we're using as examples and learning how to interpret are dreams that just kind of happen to us, right? Whereas if we go back to the beginning of our conversation, actually making use of the dreams, consciously setting an intention before bed, now you're taking even more control, because now I'm going to bed, I'm not just going to have some random dream. I want to have a dream that will have symbology in it related to a specific problem or solution, and when you wake, can apply the same interpretation wisdom that Michael is teaching us all to glean a solution to your issue from that dream that was given to you. So
I'm gonna give you an example, if we still have a moment, like that is actually fascinating, of a person who did that, because we should stress that. I'm glad you mentioned it, and we can emphasize that. I have taught people to, first of all, if you want to get more in contact with your dreams, even the beginning of just intending to makes it so, right? There are other techniques. Here's a little fun one. Take a glass of water, drink half of it right before you go to sleep, and drink the other half upon waking. That sounds very strange, but it will do something to you. It will reconnect you. But what you said is, and I talk about that in my book, that you can say, like, I want an answer to this. You can say, I want to remember my dreams. You can speak all things into that, you know, as you drift off into the alpha and, you know, into the deeper states, and get a response. I promise you, it's not like something strange, right? Now, dreams are always valuable, even whether you ask for them or not, but it is amazing to know that we can ask. I'm going to give you this example. This example was very recent, and thank God, you know, and I like to get people's permission so I can just talk about this openly, but it blew my mind. It blew my mind, and it's a lesson on like how we phrase things. So this person went to like what's called a Silva method teaching, and they teach them to do that, like to go into your mind and be like, you know, right before you sleep, like, oh, I want to know this, I want to know this. And he, for some reason, believed that he wanted to win the lottery, right? For a lot of money. That's what I think was unusual about it. It was like $800 million or something like that, right? No, 435. Sorry, $435 million, right? He's like, that's what I need. So I was like, okay, no judgment, right? So what he did was, once he went to the Silva classes, he went home and he said really strongly right before he went to sleep, he was like, I want to know what it would be like to have that amount of money. Like, I want to know, like Dorothy, right? I want to know. And then he went to sleep. And he said, the most vivid dream he's ever had. And in the dream, he goes into like a 7-Eleven to check the numbers, right? The guy says, oh, you won big, buddy. And he wins $800 million. All right? Now, that's the first part, but we about to get so deep. You're going to be glad you joined just for this one. Woo! Yes. So then now we're going to go into a little bit of what happens in the dream. So he wins. He's super excited. Almost in the dream for about a minute, he's like, oh my God, I won all this. Then he starts to get nervous, okay? Then he starts to remember, he's like, oh, my wife told me, like, if you ever win, don't tell anybody because all these horrible things that happen, right? Now, I promise this gets much deeper. Then he suddenly goes outside and he doesn't know where he is. Even though he entered into the 7-Eleven, he's like, oh, I don't know where I am. I don't know where I am, right? Then he goes and he's like looking for his wife and he can't find her. Woo, come on, somebody. He's looking for his wife and he can't find her. And then he does finally find her and they have to go to work even though they own their own business. So he's very confused by that. He's like, why are we going to work? Why are we going to an office building? And then when I deconstructed that, which this again really shocked me. Do you already have the sense of it? I see your eyes.
I know, I'm waiting.
So think about it. Okay, so here's what happened. He said to the dream before he went to sleep, he was like, I want to know what it would be like to have that amount of money. And woo! The dream mind was like, here you go. First thing is you'd feel very excited. Second thing is you start to get paranoid immediately. You start to feel nervous and like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh, I can't tell anybody. Third thing is you'd feel like you're lost in this life. That's what it was telling him. It was like, you don't know where you are suddenly, right? Like, oh, I don't know what to make of life. Which way should I go? Which direction? I'm lost. Fourth thing he would tell him, and I consider this a warning. There are many dreams that are warning people. Just telling you, many dreams that I've interpreted are warnings. In this one, it was like he can't find his wife. So it's implying that there could be some separation, which is not surprising, right? If you suddenly, with some people, that if you win $800 million, she's gonna, there's gonna be some things going on. Even that last one, it showed them that the money would itself become a business. Mic drop. Like these people literally, they're entrepreneurs. So he was very confused by that part. He was like, why did we go to an office building? And I was like, because that amount of money would be a business to you. It'd be like, can you imagine having that much money? You'd be like, oh God, which family member should I take care of? Which friend should I help out? Which organization? What should I do with it? Right? All of those things were implied by this dream. And again, by what we're talking about in this particular segment, which is a person asking for it. But that part shocked me, I'll say again, because I expected, like it woke me up, like I expected it to show the good stuff, right? Like, woo, yeah, hold the big check. But instead, that's one of the things I can tell you about the subconscious mind and the dreaming mind. It is impartial. That's why it's great for therapy. If a person doesn't even know themselves and they come out and say, and I'll say this quick example. I had a friend who said to me, Michael, I keep having dreams about going home. We're going to get deep here too. They said, I keep having dreams for months, repeated. If it's repeated, that means your mind, your subconscious mind wants your attention. That's why it's being repeated, people. So she was like, I keep having this dream of I'm going home, like to my childhood home. And I said, in one word, tell me the association with your childhood home. And she said, safety. And I was like, you don't feel safe, right? You are seeking to return back to that state in your life where you feel safe, where you feel secure. That is an example of how a therapist could easily use dream interpretation and just get so much from it, right? Because now you don't have to do all the complicated stuff I do where you go into every detail. You just know the heart of the matter, right? Even if the person couldn't express it well. You're like, boom, the dream did it for you. Yeah, and the dreams will always do that. I like to tell people, you got the other one where everything counts. The other one I like to tell people is dreams tell your secrets. Dreams tell your secrets.
For sure. For sure. You made me think too, you should teach therapists how to do this, because it could be a very helpful skill for them to learn or be certified in or something like that to help their clients.
That is something I'm actually working on, because one of the jobs I used to have is, ironically, is I used to lead a team of therapists when I used to work for a not-for-profit. So some of those therapists I still know, and actually we had one. I'm going to mention this one because it's deep, but like I had a friend therapist who was working with somebody whose brother killed himself, and they kept dreaming about it over and over and over again. And then we started basically splitting that client, where I was doing the dream interpretation and and working with that client on dreams. She was working on the more formal licensed psychotherapy. That one was an amazing one too. I mean, I know that's a heavy one, but that one was heavy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my own experience with my mom passing away, I had a lot of intense dreams around that time, versus say now when my life has kind of stabilized again, and that makes complete sense. Like facing death or the death of a loved one is a very energetically stressful experience. And dreams served, and thank you, served as to bring a lot of comfort during that time. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure. Like I said, those types, that just, it really shows you how profound these things are. And I'll say one thing that's important. Just like I tell people that there's a power in them that's dreaming with that, and that's very clear. Likewise, when there's an interpretation, it's not me who's interpreting. There's some sense, right? I'm not trying to be humble. There's a true sense in which there's a power that's greater than me, and I ask it. There's plenty of times where people have sent me super long dreams. Can you imagine this, Amanda? Like, oh, here, Michael, you know, in the dream, I was like riding a motorcycle. No, in the dream, I was riding a killer whale while my partner was burning something on the stove, and they were yelling at me, right? These very, very bizarre dreams. But yeah, I'll leave it there.
All right. Well, so it's 10:05 here where I am, and so we should probably start wrapping things up just a little bit. I definitely want to give you and those listening an opportunity to learn more from you. I have one of Michael's books here, The Purpose and Power of Dreams, but you've written at least one more by now, maybe two more by now. So let's give you a moment to talk about that and share that with folks, and then also how they could get in touch with you, because I saw a couple of folks sharing little tidbits of their dreams in the chat. And if you do have a dream that you would like to work with Michael to interpret, Michael, I would love for you to share how folks can work with you.
Okay. So yeah, bringing back the memory, like all of these are precious to me. They're little things, you know, that's not the biggest book, but it really was a spiritual work and a spiritual process of like learning how to do this and then expressing it. In the first one, The Purpose and Power of Dreams, I talk about exactly that. It's more of an introduction, but it does have examples. So, but when I say talk about exactly that, what I mean is it talks about the purpose of dreams and the power of dreams. The purpose, which is this catharsis, inspirational type of effects that we've been talking about, and the power, which is the power which transcends us, the power of the spiritual realm to speak to us. And then I started a series, which is really how sort of where I am now, and this is like the big focus. And woo, this one was like, it was tough to get this finished, but thank God, thank you, Lord. But it just occurred to me because I started to realize and get the feeling, like literally like a detective, like every time I would solve a case, it started to be like, yes, right? Like I got that rush, that dopamine rush, that healthy dopamine rush. And so then I was like, oh, I'm going to write a series of books. And I'm currently writing my second. I have 3 books overall now. One that I did with Esther on being scared to be a butterfly, which is also, again, a type of symbology. That's even why I kind of even allude to it. But Dream Detective, I go deep. So this first ones are amazing messages from within. These are 7 of the most amazing dreams I've ever interpreted, that were like dreams that just blow your minds, with demons and creatures and all sorts of other things operating within them. Zombies we got in there, the tree with the face. I mean, you know, things that were like, whoa. And then I present the dream. I ask you questions because I'm trying to get the people like to get stirred up and to do it themselves. Like I'm making you a dream detective is part of the purpose of the book. And then I go line by line and I sort of do my version of Sherlock Holmes, where I'm like, you see that? This means that, this means that, this means that. And then, you know, there's some other pieces in there about what do I do if I forget my dreams? You know, if I'm having trouble remembering, all sorts of stuff like that. that I end up talking about. So when people contact me, you can contact me on, I do have, like, people would call it a one-page website, which is my Strikingly page, which is attached to my, like people say, my link tree, right? But I like to refer to that as my digital portfolio. If you want to see, like how does Michael get down, like with complicated dreams and everything, I have on that digital portfolio, which is just, again, a link you open. It's a one-page website. I have dreams that I've interpreted there. I talk about the art and science of interpretation, and I give examples, and I give feedback. I still have to add more feedback, though, because now these days, like, people are really starting to give me like stuff that other people should hear, like we're talking about here, where people are like, you blew my mind, you changed my life. Which, by the way, that's what I like to do. I like to blow people's mind, because here's why it ends up being so great. Because when I'm blowing your mind, I'm actually blowing it with the knowledge that you're incredible, with the knowledge that you're a genius, with the knowledge that you're wonderful. Like what kind of such mutual benefit in it,
Absolutely. And yeah, the sessions that you and I have had together, I've gotten a whole long, like, written interpretation from Michael after meeting with him about the dream and discussing it. So you can refer back to it time and again and try to gain more and more wisdom from the dream. This was so much fun. I could talk to you all day long about this stuff, and I'm even thinking I want to maybe work on developing some kind of a workshop or something that folks could come to and do some hands-on training, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I do consider myself on a mission, and I feel like the Spirit is leading me to really, like, press in to this, to dreams and symbology. And I am working on a workshop for people where they will, like, go through it. But yeah, I think that'd be great. I mean, it definitely, and I mean, if we manage to get, I feel like we got a lot of really practical and inspirational teaching done. Yeah, can you imagine if we didn't have these little bumps and hiccups?
Yeah, this was definitely, well, now I'm trying to think of this experience in a dream interpretation.
Well, thank you again for actually the whole week, because this is not just with me today, although, I appreciate sort of like being this element of it, but everything that you talked about this week and discussed in terms of dreams definitely got me pushing myself to think deeper about it. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And there's lots of love coming in through the chat. Let's give it up for Michael Suarez from Creative Learning New York.
Thank you, dreamers. Thank you.
Yes.
Dreamers.
So I hope you all will take what you've learned today and apply it, maybe even as soon as today or tonight. Take a nap with an intention, go to sleep with an intention, see what comes through, start, recording your dreams, start taking them a little bit more seriously and recognizing, like Michael said, that you have a genius within you whose imagination is beyond compare. And that's a power that we all possess and that will serve you well as an awakened creator. So thank you for being here. And if you'd like to work with Michael or purchase any of his books, you can find him at Creative Learning New York on Instagram.
Yes. Yeah. Wonderful. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you all. Okay, I love you so much, Michael. You have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
And
love
those
you
of
all.
you in the chat as well. Bye for now.
Bye, dreamers.